Hello and welcome to another episode of CYC Youth Chat. I'm Mark, and joining me on the panel today we have David, Gabriella, Michelle, and Andrew. Today's topic of discussion is dating and how to choose the right partner in life. I'd like to begin by reading out a really nice verse I once read in Proverbs 19, which states, "Houses and riches are an inheritance from fathers, but a prudent wife or husband is from the Lord." Which leads me to my first question that I'd like to pass on to the rest of my panel. Is there anything wrong with dating? David.
I think it's a very loaded question, but I don't think there's anything wrong with dating, provided it's done the right way, with a lot of prayer and direction. But yeah, that's basically the crux of what we're going to be talking about. So, what do you reckon?
What do you think, Michelle?
Well, I recently read a book basically about dating. And I really found this quote that resonated especially with me. It said, dating without the intent of getting married is like going to the grocery store without any money. So you either leave unsatisfied or you leave with something that isn't yours. So I think basically with dating, we have to consider the right intentions, and we always have to put God first as well. We always have to include God in it. So,
yeah, because a lot of the times dating is seen, or any premarital relationship is deemed unacceptable. What are the reasons for that, Andrew?
Just because if they engage in things that they shouldn't engage in, say premarital sex, one thing. But the other thing is if they do things that won't lead both of them to the kingdom of heaven. So usually, in any sort of partnership, you're supposed to do something. You're supposed to do things together, which will lead you both to the kingdom. Of course. And so anything that is not pertaining to that is obviously wrong. So yeah, that's what I think.
I heard something nice once that two people should be like brothers and sisters in Christ, up until that time that they are married, and the whole time, they're both praying about it, asking God to really show them, is this your will, Lord? Is this person right for me? And then you should always have the guidance of your confession father, all that stuff. That's a massive thing. All my older friends I know who are in relationships, they always get the tick of approval from Abuna, and the whole dating period, Abuna's in check, and they're they might go to confession together and that sort of thing, really brother-sister relationship.
So you don't have anything against dating, but as long as
provided it's done the right way.
So how else can you make sure that it's done the right way? Like you said, guidance from confession father, but what about that time when it's just you two? How do you make sure that it's done in the Christian spiritual environment?
I think at the end of the day, it comes down to yourself. A lot of the time, you're going to have to make sure you have your self-control, and it's like anything with your life. If you're struggling with any sort of problem, any sort of sin, I don't know, maybe it's smoking. You can go to as we know, if you go to clubs now, you can't smoke inside any club or bar or anything, right? But if you're outside, you have to control, because you're no longer forced. So it's the same thing with any sort of marriage or anything. Once you're outside supervision, what do you do? At the end of the day, it comes down to yourself, how you control yourself, and what systems you've probably put in place to deal with that.
So would you get straight into it, from experience of talking to people who have gone the distance kind of thing? They always say we only hung out in groups first. Is that an acceptable way to start?
Yeah, that's probably a good place. You probably, I don't know, it's, I don't know, I don't have that much experience, but...
No, me neither, you're talking.
You have to probably, hanging out with groups is probably one way of doing it, but everyone has their own preference, so I'm not going to speak for everyone here.
But then how do you get to know them in that more intimate manner?
Yeah, you're supposed to deal with them individually. You're supposed to get to know this person because you're going to be with them for a long time.
But would that be I don't know, it feels like that shouldn't really be the first step. Passing it on to you guys, what do you think?
I don't know. I think this day and age, messaging is a massive thing. Facebook inbox, on your phone, all this stuff, it's at our fingertips. Whereas for our parents' generation, they would have been calling on the landline and bringing the phone into their away from their parents. So it's a lot easier for us, but by the same merit, it's a bit more dangerous because now we have all this freedom. You can speak to whoever you want, whenever you want, just at your fingertips. So I guess that's one thing that starts. But if you spend all your time talking, you got to be face to face and see their emotions, see how they react, like actually get to know someone. And,
I think a good stepping stone, like especially a first step when it comes to relationships, would be the way that we pursue a relationship with the opposite sex. I reckon the first step, even before that, we should pursue Christ in that manner. You know, we constantly think about, you know, does this boy like me, or is he thinking about me? Whereas put all our thoughts into God first, and then build our relationship with Christ, and then when he thinks we're ready for that responsibility of commitment, then he'll reveal the right person for us and in the right time, which is obviously his time.
Yeah, and in a way, pursuing marriage or pursuing a relationship, or like thinking about it all the time, more than you think about God, is a form of idolatry. Like, if it's something that becomes like more like on your mind than God is, you've got a serious problem. And I honestly think that like if you seek God first and you pursue that relationship and you just work on that, everything else is going to fall into place. And God is going to, you know, fix that up. And like it says, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added onto you. So all these things, like I think that it shouldn't be something that we have to worry about. It needs something that we need a lot of prayers and thought about, but it's not something that we should be worried about or we should be constantly seeking, because it's not of our own efforts that we are going to attain that.
Of course. So, like, but then that begs the question: when is the right time? When would you think is the right time to start looking?
I wouldn't know, to be honest, because I know that I would be nowhere near ready. But I feel like once you are ready, you know. I don't know. I wouldn't know.
We'll pass it on to everyone.
I heard a really
seems a little bit confused tonight.
none of us know, bro. I heard a really nice analogy, and from this priest who's in the church in America, and he was saying that a relationship is like a mountain, right? So you're on one side of the mountain, and your spouse is on the other side. But obviously you can't see each other because there's a massive mountain in the way. And he's saying, all right, so you just don't know that person exists. But on the top of the mountain is Christ. So you are climbing the mountain for your love for God. You're getting closer to him day by day, and it's a struggle and it's a climb, but you just focus on him. You don't even know the other person exists. Meanwhile, they're doing the same thing. So like once you both get to the top, which I guess is symbolic of the right time, like you meet each other, but you meet each other through Christ, through God. Like he's your mutual friend. He's your matchmaker type thing.
And I guess that's what St. Paul meant as well when he said in Ephesians chapter 5, he said that it is a mystery. So it's a constant growth, and you're growing together in Christ. And you know the way it goes, like no one knows it. It's going to happen.
Mystery, yeah.
So what if it happens like when you're in your youth? Like we know that it's good for, like it says in Lamentations 3, it's good for a man to bear the yoke in his youth, like the yoke of service and like and he like trying to maintain a spiritual relationship with God. Like, isn't it more dangerous if he gets into a premarital relationship?
I guess one of the key things we need to consider as well is timing, like and maturity, because it is one of the most important things. Like when we're growing up, right, our brains are still developing, especially males. And until like the age of 23 or something, there's still a bit of development to happen. Also as well, like you need to consider yourself, like if you're prepared for it. So as you know, like women consume a lot of money, so you're probably going to be...
Oh yeah.
I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah, they're probably going to have to, you're probably going to have to be like, you have to be financially viable, like what are you going to do? You have to have a bit of money behind you. So these are things that you need to think about yourself. And when you're ready, there'll be a lot of other indicators, just not only spiritual, but other maturity aspect.
I have a bit of a question. What if
less controversial than the
what if, okay, so say God has chosen someone for you, and it's you know, it's your will, like it's your will, and you've been praying about it, and you're on that path. But what if that person isn't? What if that person strays? What happens then? Like if he's not on that mountain on the other side, what happens then? Does God's plan get modified, or I don't know?
Like I think. For me, it feels like, God's plan always, at the beginning, always seems strange. It's always, like, God always does things in weird ways. Like, we spoke about it before, like, once we spoke about, like, the Moses situation. Like, everything he did with Moses was just strange, It's like, it felt like God was telling Moses things in his ears, and Moses is thinking, okay, I'll do it, but it doesn't make sense. Like, put your stick on the ground, it's going to become a serpent, or put your stick in the air and it's going to split the sea. Like he doesn't, like he didn't question God's plan. Like he never questioned it. And the same with Abraham, who never ever questioned. I think, like it's just accepting God's will in our lives. I don't know what does everyone. David, what do you think?
I agree. Like God's will, like it's mysterious, but it's perfect, and we have to trust it. Like I like today's, like in our society, there's a big onus that like once you reach a certain age, if you're not in a relationship, like it's a bit of social taboo, and like people get depressed over it. They get really upset. Like, man, there's no one. I don't have a significant other. Like, I'm just working. and they get all upset. And like, it's like we have to trust in God's plan. Like, you know, there's a lot of people that get married at different ages, some really young, some quite old. Like, it doesn't really matter. What matters is following God's will. And like what Andrew was saying before, I really like that. Like viable, I think spiritually is a massive thing. Like, I was watching one of these spoken word videos, you know, they do the rapping, and then the guy goes, what was it? Don't like fall for the man he's trying to be unless he's not trying to be the perfect man to be.
Yeah.
So he's saying like, don't even like waste your time on this guy if he isn't trying to be the best reflection of Christ that he can be. Like, what makes a man is someone who is Christ-like. So like, as you were saying in Ephesians 5, like St. Paul is like really driving the point home that that marriage is given to us by God, so we can have a small understanding of what Christ's love for the church is. Like, it should be Christ and the church. That's what we should be aiming for. That's the whole point of marriage. Like,
but I think, I thought like to answer your question, Gabriella, is like if you're ready and you know you've waited a long time and you know like God's given you that kind of like idea that you're ready, and you see that the other person is ready, then maybe that's not, you know, God's plan for you. Andrew, what do you think?
I don't know, like it's the same with any other question. Like sometimes if you're worried about, say, a person that you want to try and get to convert to Christianity, right? He's on the other side of the world, like he's in another religion, for instance, right? And you're going to be praying your heart out, trying to deal with this. And that's the only thing you can do. Because at the end of the day, like, if, as you said, that you're going all right, but the other person is you feel isn't on the right track, then I guess prayer and that's the key thing you can do. So that's
I think maybe you don't want to put yourself in that dangerous situation, you know, where you're in a relationship and you're kind of like trying to drag the other person. Like we once spoke about, you know, going in how Saint Peter, he went into the deep with Christ, and that was like, it was intimate. He had an intimate time. Like, what if he had a friend back at the shore? Is he gonna leave the boat with God and go and get his friend? Where on the shore there's the noise and the distractions of the world, but or like, do you prefer to be there or do you prefer to be in the deep with Christ?
I guess what you're saying basically is don't risk your own salvation for the sake of someone else. Like, at the end of the day, there are going to be these fine line decisions. I mean, if you're going into a partnership with someone, then you're probably going to find out that you are pretty close, right, in the way you think and the way you feel. So they're typically not going to be those people that are like really far away. But, you know, you always have these friends that they will drag you down for sure. And so you need to watch out for those people.
Can I just say on that point, like especially when you're saying dragging people down, I think one of the main aims of dating and being in a commitment and eventually marriage and living together is, you know, going to Christ, going to the kingdom of heaven. So I think one of the main points you need to find in a person is how are they going to help me and how am I going to help them get to Christ.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's the main aim of dating. Like we've discussed, like that. So far we've discussed like if there's anything wrong with dating and if premarital relationships are acceptable. So I think we've covered a lot for this first half of the show. But don't go anywhere because we'll be right back after the break. See you guys soon. Welcome back to CYC Youth Chat. So far we've been discussing dating and how to choose the right partner in life. To begin the second half of this show, I'd like to start by asking Gabriella a question. We've already discussed that, you know, there's nothing really wrong with dating as long as Christ is the center and it leads to marriage. But what do you think the purpose of dating is?
Well, I think to simply put it is marriage, but it's what God had intended it to be is for marriage. And I don't think that, I don't know how to, you know, expand on that anymore. I see it as, you know, black and white like that. I think Michelle has something to say. Yeah.
I think one of the main purposes of dating and eventually marriage is the opportunity to show love like Christ shows us love. And because that intimate relationship of knowing someone on that kind of level and them knowing us is a gift from God. And the only way to, you know, receive that gift and to, you know, keep that gift is by, you know, giving us the opportunity to show what I would consider almost unconditional love, like similar to the love that Christ shows us.
So you think it's like a representation of our intimate relationship with Christ if we have an intimate relationship with someone else?
Yes, and especially because Christ is part of that relationship. Because dating, especially for us, isn't just us and the other person. It's us, the other person, and God.
I agree with that. Like God has to be the center of the relationship. I remember, David, you were once showing me an awesome photo about like the difference between dating in the real world and dating in Christianity.
Yeah.
Can you explain that for us?
One of the servants posted it, and it was really nice, and it like compared like secular dating with like the proper like conventional Christian way of doing things, and like it compared how like secular dating is kind of just for romance and like the fuzzy feelings and like, bro, I really enjoy spending time with her and all this stuff. Whereas like, same thing. And then, no, like you're talking to your mate.
Anyway.
Anyhow, and then like Christian was very, very like really planned out, really deliberate, like, and you've got the safety nets of your confession father and all these people, and like, you know, you're practicing for marriage. You're like treating them that way, and it should be like I don't like the phrase testing period, but it kind of is. And I know some priests that like they won't view a relationship as valid until the marriage. Like when people are engaged, they still like treat it very seriously. Like you're still testing each other out, kind of thing, because you have to be compatible and like on many different levels. Like
I don't want to play like devil's advocate or anything, but like shouldn't there be kind of like a sense of romance in every relationship?
No, there should. But like if that's like your main,
should that wait till marriage?
No, I feel like it's naturally it's going to be like we're humans. That's part of the way God's made us. That, you know, like even biochemistry, like there's electrical signals, whatever. Like that's part of it. You get like that's human. But if that's your main like indicator of like if you're basic, it's the same with your relationship with God. If it's based on your feelings, like you stand up one night and you pray and you really feel it, and the next night you don't and you give up, like it's not based on feelings. Like feelings is just like a very, very, very small part of it. You have to be really honest with yourself. Like, is this person taking me away from God, or are they actually helping me get closer? Or, you know, is this person someone that I want to raise my family with, someone that I can have a home that is like a church? Like you have to be really, you have to look beyond the feelings.
But once again, like I think attraction is the key factor. Like
I think
you can't have
you can't
like
escape
it won't last long. Like it needs to last, right? And one of the key things are attraction. So if you don't have it, like a lot of things will. And then problems may occur during the relationship.
No, of course it'll be there, but like it can't be.
It can't be the main factor. Like what
can't be the main.
But you need to be attracted.
The main factor. I think it seems to me like attraction is kind of the first step. You know, you're attracted to the person. Like maybe like from what I got from what you were saying, it's like attraction. You know, brings two people closer together. But
maybe that's a starting point.
Personality keeps you talking.
Yeah.
Like, do you think like is that what you agree with, or
Gabriella? I think it can be attraction to a different level. Like, sorry. Then I guess something came to my mind.
Yeah.
I think it can be. It doesn't have to be like physical attraction. It can be like I'm really like attracted to the way that, you know, he treats other people, or like the way that he loves God, or the way that he serves God. Like for me personally, like I don't really think much about it, but I just the one thing that I look for in a man is something that if he's gonna get me to heaven, that's the first tick box. You know. What I mean?
Then how do you? Actually, this is a good question. How do you find the one, or actually, where do you find the one? Both. How and where do you find the one, Gabriella?
Well, I wouldn't really know because I haven't found the one.
Fair enough.
Church, God is the one,
It's a good answer. Michelle, do you have anything else?
Well, as Gabriella was saying, attraction, but I think all the right kinds of attraction. Like obviously, if you're just basing it on attraction on looks, then you're heading down the wrong path, because then it's probably going to get too serious too quickly and lead to sinful acts and premarital, like whatever. But, you know, if you're attracted to who they are as a person, you know, how they approach God, how they approach other people, how they show their love and kindness and their personality, that kind of attraction is what we aim to look for in someone. And I must admit, like, physical attraction is a bonus, but...
But also, like, how it would be unfair if you're, you know, giving yourself to someone who you're not physically attracted to, like, when you're married. Like, it's not right. And that physical attraction, in a way, is a gift from God, like, when you do get married. But it's obviously not, like we've discussed, one of the main...
But in your question, like, where do you find the person? Like, it's the same with where do you find your friends? So you have to find them in the places that you associate with, and the places that, like, say, like church, for instance, or, you know, places that have good people. And you're not going to go looking for the person, say, on Friday night, you know? You're not going to go, oh, I'm going out Friday night, I'm going to go to the club and I'm going to find the one, you know? It doesn't work like that.
Maybe a youth meeting, St. Mark's.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you want to change it like that, yeah.
So, like, when you find the one, so to speak, like, you're attracted to someone, you've spoken to them a little bit, what's next? What's the next step? Hard one.
I think you go to Buena
I
first.
reckon. Yeah, lots of
What
prayer
answers will start with you.
Sorry. Yeah, lots of prayer, definitely. I think that's the main thing. Prayer, pray about it constantly, and abuna.
She pretty much summarized it really well. I know one of the priests who he was giving a sermon, and he was saying like, we prayed every day, like every single day till the day of our wedding day. Like, God, if this isn't right, cancel it. You know, and that's such a strong thing to be able to do, to be able to on your wedding day say, God, if this isn't what you want, cancel it. So I think it's something like that's why it's so important to establish Christ as the foundation. But I have a question: how do you do that? Like how like I know you're both saying your confession, Father. I know that you're both praying about it. But how together do you establish Christ as your relation? Like, are you like how do you correspond?
So for instance, you can pray with each other, you can serve with each other,
but
you
in
can
the dating
teach
period,
with.
you're not really like with each other.
No, but you can.
But you're training for
you are
you're
with
training for marriage.
Yeah, you are with each other, and like one of the most beautiful things I see, like say when my parents, when they go out, for instance, and they go and like heal, or they go and help out with say the homeless, or they go with a few doctors and they go and help out like that. You know, Fred Holler's foundation. There's a lot of parents, you know, they get to a stage where they're just like, look, we want to go overseas and we want to help people with their eyesight. Like there are so many things you can do together, and service is a key thing. You're serving God, and you're making a bond with each other you won't forget for the rest of the relationship.
What happens when, like, so say for example, you think you found the one, but it's a false sense of kind of a peace about that decision you've made? What happens when you start to regret that? What steps do you take? And how do you know if that's not the right path for you? Like, is it?
I think there's an important prayer, especially like there's a prayer in the Agbeya that I know many priests prescribe, whether you're trying to find the one, whether you're deciding whether they are the one, whether you're trying to get over if you know maybe they weren't the one. It's the prayer of guidance in like the other prayer section at the back of the Agbeya. And I must admit, no matter what decision you need to make, whether it's, you know, should I date this person, should I marry this person, that prayer can be the start of it all. And by praying that daily.
And if you know you still get that feeling after a lot of prayer that maybe this person isn't the right person for you, then maybe that is God's way of telling you, you know, like I think you should wait a bit longer.
Like there's nothing wrong, like if a relationship goes wrong and then it ends, like there's also nothing wrong with that, because God can use that to teach you something. Like I've got a friend from uni, he's not Christian at all, but like he was in a relationship for like 2 years or something, like really, really serious, and then out of nowhere, like she decided she's going to marry some other guy, and he was like really heartbroken. But like when he was reflecting and I was trying to like comfort him and stuff, he was like describing how the relationship taught him so much about himself, about what it means to love someone, and like he grew from that. So of course, like God can use all things for the good, and we can learn.
And that's like what we spoke about in the first half, about like how God's plan can, you know, take shape in strangest ways, even if it is heartbreak, like for example. But I really like how Andrew brought his family into it. Like how much does your family influence dating in your life?
Yeah, I mean, there'll be a key factor to it, because like you look at your parents and you look up to them, right? And you see what they do in their relationship, and you only want to emulate that. And if there's goodness coming out of your family, then you want to replicate that with whatever you do with your future partner. So it is one of the most important things for me, because I really look up to my parents. I respect them, and I know that if I follow that example, then I won't be doing anything wrong.
And it was important for your parents to maintain that Christ as the center of the relationship, so that they can pass on their Christian values to you guys, like kids. And I think that's really important. But when you start dating, so when do you bring your family? Like when do you make them involved?
Next question.
I think it's hard to generalize that. Like every relationship is different,
So
every family is different.
Yeah.
But
all the
Like
dynamics.
as a general like census for basically all youth, your family know you best. They've lived with you all your life. God, like you choose your friends, but God gave you your family.
That's very true.
And so like whether you introduce them to your family from the get-go, like as soon as they, like say as soon as a guy calls me up and says, I want to get to know you, I'd probably be running to the hills to my mum saying, can you guess, like, can you believe it? But like, because I know that she has not only a good judgment of character, but she knows me. She knows what I would like. She knows who I am. So
what happens when your family disapproves though? But
That's what I was thinking as well. Like I know a friend of mine who, you know, brought a girl home and his parents weren't approving. But this guy's
Is this friend you? Or?
Yes.
Sorry, bro. Sorry.
Not on air.
Oh, sorry, bro.
No, like it's very common, like with youth today. Like even the very spiritual, holy youth, like they have that problem.
But maybe because that was unexpected. Like the thing is, if you're transparent with your parent, like maybe, I don't know, every parent is different and every relationship is different, but, I like to think that, if something happens, then you can approach your dad, you can approach your mum and say, look, this is happening in my life, what do you think? And asking for advice isn't wrong, because look at them, they grew up like you. I mean, one day your dad was probably looking at all the beautiful women out there and trying to pick one for himself, and he found your mum.
Very true.
But what happens when they completely they refuse to accept the marriage?
See, I wouldn't have an answer.
I think, like, obviously take the advice on board, like, listen to what they have to say. Don't just be like, no, you're wrong, you don't know
Honor
him
your
or
mother and
her,
father.
whatever.
Of course.
Listen to what they have to say and go to your confession father and say, this is what my parents say about the situation. What do you think?
I think prayer.
Yeah,
a lot,
pray-
and I'm sure like prayer can do anything. God can soften so many hearts, and if it is the right thing, God will soften their hearts.
Does, David?
So no, I was just gonna say, like you guys were talking before, how do I make Christ the center? I think like be very deliberate in how you spend your time together. Like instead of, oh babe, let's go to the movies, or let's walk down Brighton, like let's go to Bible study, or let's go to Tesbah together. Like you can really train yourself for marriage.
I actually know a priest that gave very good advice. He was saying, if you're going to date someone, don't just go on Friday night and have dinner.
Yeah.
Come to youth meeting, enjoy what you benefit from Christ and from the youth meeting first, and then go have dinner, because at least then you might have something to talk about. Did you really like what Abuna said in that talk? And that was really amazing, and that new hymn and things like that. Like always bring Christ into it.
Yeah, sorry, David.
No, that'll help you like see where you're at spiritually, because like Nat was talking before about like viable, like in terms of economy and all that stuff, like, but as well, but like spiritually as well, like you have to be kind of compatible. You can't, like, someone who has the spirituality of Saint Anthony isn't going to be in a relationship with someone who's like doesn't really care about their relationship with God.
And guys sometimes like I know guys especially, like they always have that Corinthians 7 in their mind, where it says that if a married man or someone who is married cares for things of the world, or someone who is unmarried cares for things of the Lord. So like monasticism is always like an option that is available. But from a girl's perspective, like what do you think towards dating and the pathway to marriage?
What do you mean? What do I?
So like what are you looking for in a man before you think, yeah, I'm ready, he's ready? Like what are you looking for?
Well, to be honest, I'm not really looking.
This isn't like a matchmaker or anything. We're not trying to.
No, I think like honestly, for me, it's someone that I'm attracted to in a spiritual sense. Like if I know that man's going to get me to heaven, that is my top priority. And after that, I feel like all the things will come into place within the relationship. But something that I would definitely look forward to doing, like I've seen other couples do it, and I think it's such a great idea, is a spiritual plan together with your confession father. Like you read a certain passage of the Bible together one day. You're going to you prepare for church on the same day. You go to church together. You prepare for communion together. And things like that. Like I can't really speak of any experience, and I can't really say like what specifically I'm looking for. Like I'm not like, okay, he has to do this, and he has to be a doctor, and he has to. Well, one thing he has to be a housewife or something like that. But I think definitely looking at more attributes rather than what materialistic checklist.
But you know what I really like about the Bible in particular? It's very practical, and Saint Paul even illustrates here in Corinthians. He says, "I say to the unmarried and even the widows as well, it is good for them if they remain even as I am unmarried, but if they cannot exercise self-control, let them marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passion." So he's admitting there that all of us, we all have this passion, desire within us, and he's being practical here. Like there's no point trying to abstain from something. Like there's no point trying to abstain from marriage if you can't do it. So he's saying it's all right to get married, definitely is all right, and it's important to release. Yeah.
So do you think that answers our earlier question? Like when do you think the right time is to start dating? Like when you're burning with passion and you can't?
Yeah, well, I guess it is a youthful desire. Like you are burning with passion, and that's something that's important with that stage of attraction. But as well, you don't want to let that take control of the whole thing.
Of course.
But it is admitted here. It's very practical, and that's something that will happen. And you need to control it. So,
I think, like, to be honest, I was just thinking about it just as Andrew was talking. I think why like dating in our in our community is such a big taboo is because of the example that's been set forth by the world, by the media. Everything you see, it's this, they portray it like, I know we've discussed it a little bit before, but I think that's why it's so important to make sure that your foundation is in the church, because if you are slightly influenced by those ideas, it can really, really damage a lot.
And you see that in the high divorce rates at the moment. So like,
Yeah, of course.
your relationship needs to be strong from the foundation. As we discussed already, like
Yeah.
dating is a foundational period. So
I think we're very lucky to be in the church, like in the
It's a
church,
blessing.
seeing the people that have had successful marriages, you know, maintaining that relationship with Christ and making sure that He's the foundation of their relationship. But I think, you know, that's all we have time for today. Hopefully we've answered some of your questions regarding dating, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys soon.